Nice. Hey, what's going on, everyone?
Hey.
We're waiting on Rutvik to join us as well.
Yep.
Nice. Well, it is Friday. We're doing a 12 o'clock stream here. I know we had a bunch of releases go out yesterday around the Persisted Copilot chats. Excited to kind of talk about that. But yeah, I mean, we're here in Cincinnati, Ohio for anyone who's watching, and it's a little rainy today. So sorry if it's like the lighting is not ideal, but yeah. We may have to kick it off without Rutvik. Oh, there he is.
Nice.
Hey,
yeah.
Awesome. Well, for everyone watching, we want to go ahead and just kind of give you an update on what's going on with pieces, what's going on with the product and the product evolution. And we're going to talk about some copilots today. We're going to talk about how we're able to move so fast on some of these things. I know a lot of our users are like, do you guys even sleep? You guys are shipping updates, so frequently. And we got some secret sauce that we'll share with y'all. But before we get into it, let's do some introductions. We got a couple new faces here today. For us, these are not new faces, but maybe for y'all, new faces. So as you know, I'm Savo. I'm the CEO and the technical co-founder. And y'all know Mark as well. Mark, if you want to say hi.
Hey, everyone. Yeah, I'm Mark. I've been on one or two of these. But yeah, if you haven't met me, I'm the CTO here at Pieces. And yeah, I do a lot of different things. But some of the stuff I do is manage a lot of the Pieces OS that's offline and on your computer, as well as I get the pleasure to work with Mac, Rutvik, and some of the awesome members of our ML team.
Absolutely. Mac is with us. Mac is a co-founder and the chief product officer just across the board. Mac, if you want to introduce yourself as well.
Yep. Thank you, Savo. As you said, I'm Mac, one of the co-founders of Pieces. My title is Chief Product Officer. I'm thrilled to be here. It's my first live stream. I'm excited to join Mark, Savo, Rutvik, talk about the exciting things that we're building. For reference, I often sit between a lot of our products and help all of our product owners facilitate all their new features, releases, quality assurance, support, you name it. And I'm also responsible for a lot of the front-end development on our desktop app. So we're going to show you some exciting things. Can't wait to dive into it and answer some questions and share more.
Nice. And Rutvik, last but not least, if you want to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, everyone. I'm Rutvik. So I recently joined Pieces, and I've been responsible for making sure you get those code snippet across all the different browsers, and you're able to and discover them and save them. So my day-to-day work is just making sure Pieces work extensions work across all the browsers, whether it's Chrome, Opera, Firefox. That's what I deal with, and yeah.
I will add to this. Rutvik is very, very humble, but fun fact about our browser extension is it is written in Dart and Flutter. And we are probably one of the few companies in the world that decided to build all of our kind of web extensions across Firefox coming soon, very soon. We're excited about that. But, Chromium instances like Opera, Brave, and your classic Chrome, and even Safari. So Rutvik's job is not easy, certainly interesting. And he's on the front lines of basically research and problem solving. So when you're in the browser going through all the tabs and everything like that, not easy. But we got some magical stuff today. So yeah, I mean, at large, I just want to go ahead and spend a minute or two real quick on just the evolution of Pieces, right? Pieces for developers and where it's going. So, we're coming to the close of 2023 here, and everyone who's kind of been tracking us has identified okay, phase one was really about saving things. If you're a developer, you're in the browser, you're in the IDE, you're in that collaborative space, you just want to copy and paste. You maybe want to select some stuff and save, right? And that's that fire and forget. And we knew that the saving experience, the copy paste experience just wasn't great, right? When we started this stuff. And so we said, can we make it better? Can we enrich these things with AI? Can we tag these things, title these things, and just make them a little bit more robust so that later on, when we do the search capabilities and the sharing capabilities, that enrichment, that workflow context is elevated and kind of given to the user. Then Second to that was, all right, our users started saving a lot, right? And so we wanted to make it better to search things globally. We wanted to add new ways to filter, new ways to have things suggested. But really, at the beginning of this year, we started working on the global Copilot, right? The Copilot that uses large language models, be them on device or in the cloud, to understand the context of your browser, the tabs you have open, what they mean based on the things you're doing in the IDE, right? The code you're writing, and what that means to who you're talking to on a cross-functional team inside of Slack or GChat or Teams. So really a true workflow Copilot that has the fuller context. And of course, we want that to be performant. We want that to be private. And so we did a lot of work to bring macOS, Linux, and Windows a runtime that would support large language models up in the cloud, but also Llama 2 on device. So, there are users in banks, in the DoD, in other kind of very air-gapped, high security environments. Speaking of security, we just knocked off SOC 2 compliance, so that will be announced soon. So big win there. But they're using these large language models to interact with their workflow, interact with the things they have saved in a way that's pretty awesome. The next level on top of that was, let's persist these things. You'll see some really awesome stuff today, but your Copilot conversations, they're deeply contextualized. The context is persisted. So when you say, look at this file, look at this website, look at these snippets, that's captured and persisted with the full conversation. Mac will do some awesome demos, but in addition to the desktop app, we said we want this to be everywhere. Can you get persisted conversations in the browser? Can you get them in the IDE? And a big benefit / use case is like if you're paying for an enterprise GPT-4 license and you plug that into Pieces, now you get that enterprise GPT-4 license everywhere and grounded in your workflow context. Because like the worst thing would be, I'm paying for this expensive enterprise license for ChatGPT and I'm underutilizing it. It's stuck in a tab across 50 tabs. So things like that are starting to happen. And so this whole talk today is about persistent copilots, the technology to make them local, the technology to make them grounded, the technology to make them plug and play for large language models in the cloud, and then also how we build them. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Mac. We're going to get into the good stuff, but let me know if I missed anything, Mac, Rupvik, or Mark, but that's kind of the arc that's going on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. That really excited about the being able to plug in your enterprise key with OpenAI. And I think too, Savo, that will unlock a world of possibilities. For instance, being able to use some of your already pre-trained models in OpenAI, or be able to even in the future hook into some of the GitHub pre-trained models as well. But yeah, all that stuff's really exciting. Looking forward to it.
The bring your own model theme, if you will. And I know on previous live streams, we talked about these things called ghost assets, or like kind of pseudo assets, if you will. That's already kind of going on behind the scenes. It's not necessarily elevated to give you, snippets in a feed or anything like that quite yet, but it is being used to ground the Copilot. So when you're looking at something in the browser, you're looking at something in the IDE, you'll see, hey, you can ask Copilot about it, and it's going to have that context. A lot of magical work going on there, but I'll stop talking. Mac, take us away. Let's do some show and tell.
Yep. Let's do some show and tell. Savo, thank you. We're going to start to see just all these things start to bubble up to the experience here. I am starting to share my screen. Mason, if you want to help me out there, let me know when you guys can see it.
Looking great.
Looking good. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, so I'm in the familiar desktop app here. For context, I've got my snippets. I'm in my personal Pieces repository. All the snippets that you see here are snippets that I've saved over time. I'll touch on some of these later, but I've got a shell script here just with some Python stuff. The first thing I want to share is just how do we get into the Copilot, right? I mean, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You see right here in my list view, I've got a launch Copilot button. That's going to actually trigger a whole new conversation specifically about this snippet itself. If I'm over here in my gallery view, let's say you like to use your gallery, you like to see the big snippets and lots of content all at once. It's all really awesome. You've got your launch Copilot button down here. And then, of course, you've got this navigation drop down. This is sort of your source of truth. How can you get anywhere in the application, whether to a new view, back to a previous view, and so on. If you see this fourth one here, you'll see Copilot chats. That's going to take me into the Copilot chat view. And that's where we are right here. And so As I get into my chat view, you'll see a brand new UI. If you've been with Pieces for some time now, you'll notice this is a nice evolution from the previous version. We've got a new aesthetic, we've got a new layout, we've got some simplified UI elements and so on. We can talk more about that later. On the left, these are obviously my conversations. You'll notice I just got a couple of conversations here. And then on the right, this is the actual content of the conversation itself. And so you'll notice down here in the bottom left, I've got my GPT 3.5 Turbo. I can click this. I can go and access, the different models that you have available to you to be able to toggle between them, whether you want to use a cloud model via OpenAI or Palm 2, or you are a security conscious user and you're interested in using a Llama 2 on-device model. I'll share some more about that later. But let's get into it, right? So I want to create a new chat. If you're anything like me, I'm a front-end developer. I like to develop the user experience when it comes to things like security. They're usually an afterthought for me. So I've got this really, really nice prompt here. Let's say I want to go ahead and generate some Firebase storage rules. They're super important for keeping your data locked down. It's something that I never remember how to do. It's kind of a tricky thing. I always find myself looking up how to maybe do it, but here I'm going to use the Pieces Copilot to just have him generate some code for me. So let's get into it. Help me generate a Firebase storage rule that only allows authenticated users to access a bucket. So right away, the Copilot is going to start thinking, and boom, I've got a nice, simple Firebase storage rule. I didn't really have to do much thinking about it other than the fact that I wanted a storage rule that only allows authenticated users. And we go from there. And so from here, you'll notice I've got a whole bunch of actions that I can take. Right down here towards the input, we've got suggested questions if I want to follow up with an additional prompt. On the snippet itself, I can save that snippet to Pieces. I can share it with another member of my team, annotate code, find similar snippets, and a whole bunch more with this snippet itself. So for myself, in this case, I have a feeling that I have some other snippets that I've saved that are related to this one. So I'm going to go ahead and check out this find similar snippets action right here. And what that's going to do is that's going to use that snippet as a search query, and it's going to search through my entire Pieces repository and find me back other snippets that are related to this one. And you'll notice I've got a whole bunch of data over here. On the left, I've got all the snippets that may be related. I've got an auth users only cloud storage rule. I've got production Firebase rules, testing Firebase rules. We can click into some of these to actually view the code. Notice Firebase storage. Notice Firebase storage again. This is, also some if auth is not equal to null. Great. I've got some related people here on the top right. These are people that I've associated with some of these snippets that I've already saved that can assist me when I'm working towards some of these solutions. I know Mark, Savo, they've got some really great experience with Firebase Cloud Security, so definitely good members of my team to go and ask questions about. Sorry, I can't see the screen.
Oh no, you're good. No,
questions, please.
I will say that is true. Like, don't let me fool you. I am the CEO, but man, I could shred some security rules.
Absolutely.
No problem.
Yep. And so moving forward here, we've got some anchors. Anchors are files or folders that are associated, with these snippets. And so these are some folders and files, associated with snippets in my Pieces repository that may require, Firebase storage, cloud rules, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, the related links. So I can click a link directly, go out to the Chrome docs. It's going to give me some information about, how do I develop these Chrome storage rules? This is the Chrome storage API, and
it might be semi-related, but it just depends on how much research in the browser you've been doing, around these types of related links and related materials. But we're trying to give you something, at minimum.
Exactly. So I'm going to go back into the chat there, and I've got a couple more that I want to share. Savo, Mark, Rutvik, do you guys have any thoughts before I keep moving forward?
I think let's, I don't know if this is kind of planned, but definitely maybe show the grounding of the Copilot with some of the context, like the Firebase security rules website or maybe local files.
Yep. So let's do that. So I'm going to go ahead and create a fresh chat here, and you'll notice down here there's this button next to the input. This is related to the conversation context. And so the context is extremely powerful here, and I'm going to go ahead and add some files to this conversation as context. I'm not sure if I want to do my widgets just yet, but I want to go and check out some APIs, specifically the Pieces OS API. And I want to go ahead and grab this AOT API. So both of these are APIs in a local project. Let's say I'm coming into the project fresh. I don't have a ton of familiarity with these, but I know that I'm going to have to use these tools to build out some of the features that I'm going to sort of impart on here soon. So I'm going to go ahead and set these as context. There's folders. I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but how do I use the Pieces OS API? Let's give it a shot here.
By the way, GPT-4 has never heard of Pieces OS.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. So it gave me some answers to use Pieces OS API. You need to make a post request to the API endpoint with the code snippet you want to transform as the input. The API access some parameter. Okay, so it kind of got some information. Let's give this another try here. What can I do with the AOT API? Amazing. So with the AOT API, and the AOT API, just for reference, is an API developed, here in Pieces. It's not publicly available on the web. Nobody really has much information about it. But as I associated that file with my context, it's going to tell me all the different things that I can do with that AOT API. And so the first one, readability transformation. I can change, I can take a code snippet, I can make it more readable, templatize that snippet itself. I can take that boilerplate or that function, and I can sort of abstract it into a template. Performance transformation, taking that code snippet, I can make it more performant. And then lastly, I can take that Dart snippet, convert it to Python, TypeScript, etc. And this is actually 100% accurate. These are all the methods that I can do with that AOT API, and again, using that as context. And so if I go ahead and check out the folders here, so I can do it in this conversation, but I want to show that I can go and add a new chat. And now this fresh chat, a couple of things are happening. One, you'll notice I got a nice new summary of that previous conversation, Pieces OS API, and how we might use that. But now I've got a whole new conversation here that I'm going to have a fresh context for. And so in this case, I can go and add folders to this conversation. And in this conversation, let's say I want to not necessarily talk about APIs, but I want to talk about some Flutter widgets. And again, I might be a new developer. I'm coming in here. I'm trying to get a lay of the land, figure out what types of widgets I have available to me. I know as a Flutter developer, I'm constantly maintaining state. I'm updating the UI based on what may be happening behind the scenes, whether I'm making an async call or whatever it is. So I want to see, is there a widget that I can sort of dynamically change the media based on the state of the UI? And so let's just see here. Do I have a widget that accepts different types of media? Yes, there's a widget called Smart Image that accepts different types of media, such as SVGs, PNGs, network images, bundled assets, and more. And so a Smart Image is not a public Flutter widget. It's not out there online. It doesn't exist. If I were to go Google, what is the Smart Image Flutter widget? This is unique to our project. It has specific properties. And so I can continue this and say, how do I use this? And hopefully it's going to give me an example here. And this is an exact example of using the Smart Image widget. So you see it's got a couple of properties. This value can be, a local image. It could be an icon. I can customize the height and width, give it a different color, say if this is a network, and so on. And so again, this is specific to my project. It's not a publicly available thing. And I can here have a dialogue with the Copilot about that widget. Is that what you wanted to see, Sava?
That was awesome. That was so awesome. I don't know too much Flutter, but I do know, I do know my way around Dart like pretty well. And if I was a Dart developer trying to get into the PFX code base, I would definitely be asking a lot of questions. I would upload the whole project. But yeah, that shows the power of context though, right? So I think we're going to talk a little bit more about context now. Mark is probably going to take us outside of the desktop app and into the IDEs. Mac, I didn't know if there's anything else you wanted to cap off on here, but context is definitely the takeaway, and that'll be the theme for the next couple couple minutes.
The context is awesome. You guys let me know. I do have one more thing that I think is extremely powerful to share. If you guys are cool with it, let me know. Otherwise, we can move on. But I think
let's see the magic. Let's go.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to start a new chat here again. And if your team or people that you may work with is anything like ours, we're sharing code all the time. And that code typically comes in the form of a screenshot.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to give a little story here of my friend Savo. He loves to share some screenshots of his code.
Absolutely.
And if you know Savo like I know Savo, his code is not the simplest to read. He's writing complex stuff. He's super excited about it. He always wants to share it with us. And I'm like, dude, I have no idea what's going on with your code. But in comes the Pieces Copilot, where I can take this image that Savo has shared with me, and I simply drag it into the Copilot. And what's going to happen here is it's going to take this image, and I don't know how well you guys can all see that, but if you look at it, it's a pretty complex little code snippet there. He sends me this late at night. I'm like, I don't really want to go through and try and read what's going on here, but I'm going to go and share it with the Copilot. And what the Copilot's going to do is it's going to go and run OCR on this image, and it's going to grab all of the code from that image. And once we have all the code, you'll see it here. I'm just going to share it with everyone. It looks pretty cleaned up, right? I mean, here's all the code. You can see this commented out .then here at the bottom, which is, if you look close, commented out .then here at the bottom. Looks like a pretty high fidelity OCR right there. And there's a whole bunch I can do here. I can show my related people. Look at that. I've got some related people. It's telling me that Mark and Savo are related to this snippet. I know it knows Mark based on some of the context associated with my other saved snippets and so on. Mark is familiar with batch operations. It knows Savo is also familiar with snippets like this, promises, batching, and so on.
And by the way, like, that's insane that you just went from a screenshot that, like, it has no idea that I sent you that screenshot. However, somehow it does, right?
Exactly.
So it is, and we're not on a team account. We're not, we're not sharing things. Like, it is pretty smart. Let's say that.
Exactly. And so we've got the related people, but now I can have a dialogue about this snippet. I can ask the Copilot, what in the world is this code snippet doing? And so without me having to go through and actually read the code snippet's going to give me a 4-line summary of what is this code snippet doing. It's processing a batch of files in parallel, retrieves them, from a list of files, and so on and so forth. And me being someone who wants to read and write the simplest code possible, I'm like, come on, there has to be a simpler way to write this code. So of course, I'm going to work with
annotate. You should try and annotate it as well. You should rip the annotate. We've talked about that a couple times. So yeah, try that.
Let's annotate it first. So I can either ask it to annotate the code for me, but I'm going to go ahead and click annotate code here. It's already giving me a nice suggested action. Look at that.
Kind of got into the loop a little bit.
A little bit. I would have maybe liked some comments in these chain.thens, but hey, I'll take it. Get the list of files, process files in batches of 10. Nice. Create a batch of 10 files to process each file in a batch. Great. Yeah, I like it. So let's say this thing needs to be commented. I could save this to Pieces, but I'm going to actually share this back with Savo. So I'm going to click share right here, and I'm going to say, hey, Savo, I think that you should add these comments or replace this snippet with these commented version. Let's see, we're going to generate a shareable link. Any second here. Boom, shareable link successfully copied to clipboard. For us, we use GChat. Here's our infrastructure channel. Hey, Savo. There's my custom cloud domain, file batching with focus. And now he's got that, can replace that code. Nice and simple. So that's the last thing I got. I'll hand it back off. But some very, very powerful things here in the desktop app. Would love any questions, thoughts, follow-ups, and hope people give it a try, start playing around for themselves.
Absolutely. Okay, now speaking of context, we saw some context in the desktop app. We saw some multimodality in the desktop app. We saw some related people in the desktop app. Let's go outside of the desktop app and go right into the IDE. Mark, if you want to take us away, I'll give a little bit of high-level context super fast. this is really powerful. Whether you have you're inside the GitHub ecosystem, the JetBrains ecosystem, the Visual Studio Code ecosystem, the Atlassian one, or the Bitbucket one, it doesn't matter, right? This is a system that is a workflow copilot across your entire kind of your entire developer, day to day, right? The browser, the IDE, and the collaborative environment. It doesn't start and stop in the IDE. I think the most important thing is that what you do in each of those pillars informs the context that should be used to ground these copilots. So let's go ahead and do this, Mark. Pretty excited, and we'll see what's up here.
Awesome. Yeah, I got my screen shared right now. Let me know when you guys can see it.
Sure can. Looking solid.
Awesome. So before I get into it, I'll kind of tee up Rutvik at the end of my little demo here. But basically, my environment, I've got my web browser here, and then I've got VS Code, which is one of our many integrations for IDEs. But we also have IntelliJ here, which I won't touch up on this demo. However, so basically we have an NPM package, and specifically we have our open source TypeScript SDK that was published just a couple weeks ago. And if you haven't seen the live stream for it, please feel free to take a look at it and see some of the awesome work that we're doing to open source some of our APIs to build these wonderful experiences on top of it. But yeah, so as an open source developer, I've just found the Pieces SDK, and I'm like, okay, what I could do is I could come down, take a look at some of the code snippets and all that fun stuff. However, I could just get right on into it. So what I'll do is I'll just open up the repo, and then I'll clone it locally. And I've already done this to save everyone the time. But yeah, so I've cloned it locally, and now I'm in my VS Code IDE here. I'm like, okay, great. I've got this all local. Now, how do I freaking use this thing? Very, very simply, I've got our Pieces extension downloaded. I've got our Copilot over here, our Pieces Copilot, that can be moved to anywhere really. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to right click. I'm going to ask Copilot about the repo. And specifically what I'm interested in is how can I create an asset? Whoa. Asset using the assets API. And I could go in here and I could find the specific file, but I just pointed to the top level repo and I'm going to let it do it for me. And here we go. It said, these are some of the relevant files. Now let's see what it can do for me here.
Boom. Point you right in the right direction.
Nice. There we go. And then it's really quite awesome. The assets create new asset API. That's awesome. It gives me some of the relevant files. So I can jump to this one really quickly and say, oh, great. This is the API I need to actually use this thing, which is fantastic.
Find, create, and there you go. But yeah, open the file. Nice.
So then basically I know that this is the endpoint, or this is the actual function I need, and then it calls that one. However, let's see if it can provide me some code to actually create this. Oh man.
You might need to select and ask.
Let's try this. Let's try this one again. And actually, you know what I'm going to do here? I'm just going to go over to this. I'm going to ask it.
Nice.
And let's see if it can provide me with some code.
There we go.
Nice.
Solid. And Mark, one thing to note, by the way, you're using GPT 3.5 Turbo. When you have a really large file open or a really large project open, one of the things that's important to understand is the context window, right? So we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes to try and pack in the important parts of what you're looking at, the project you have open, the tabs, the files, everything like that, and send it into the large language model in a compact context form factor. So, one of the things you could do is obviously add context, but you could also choose the GPT 16K context window, which is about 3 or 4 times larger than the one out of the box. So if you open up that OpenAI one, right there it is. You can say, hey, I want to be able to pack more of this current context into the LLM, and that might help you, kind of get the expected result faster.
So yeah, thank you so much for that, Savo. Yeah, so now I have the actual code that I'm looking for to create that. I can either keep this open and jump into my new project or file or folder where I'm trying to achieve this goal, or what I can do is I can save it so that I can have this for future use. I can come over to our tree view and where you can view all of your saved materials. And then what I can do here is I can see the saved code snippet with all of the awesome metadata that Pieces provides here, such as a title, description, tags, language, even has a related person of myself, obviously, because I created this. And then any sort of helpful links that kind of goes along with this stuff. So that's really quite awesome. So yeah, that's pretty great. Another couple things within the Copilot here that we brushed over a little bit is the ability, just like within the Pieces desktop app, to switch whatever Copilot runtime you want, whether it's a local LLM, which I currently do not have downloaded because I'm on a brand new kind of testing environment, or testing environment for the demo here. However, we also have the ability to choose between some of the OpenAI models as well as some of the Palm 2 models here. And then also, kind of like what Mac was touching on, we also have the ability to configure any sort of context that you want. And this stuff as well, I've got to do a huge shout out to one of our really awesome developers here at Pieces, which has been on the live streams a couple times, Caleb, to all the really awesome work here. And another little thing to touch on is that we're able to move now so quickly, and also should see a lot of feature parity between not only VS Code, but also Jupyter, Obsidian, and IntelliJ. And you should notice very similar UI associated with it, as well as UX. And that's thanks to basically just a shared module, enabling us to be able to make that code once and then just release it across all 3 different plugins, which is fantastic. But yeah, here you can see any sort of configured folders, any configured snippets that you want, as well as the ability to, just like Max said, reference any other conversations that I previously had. And then with that, we can do some of the basic operations, editing the title, deleting it, viewing any sort of descriptions associated with this, pinning the conversation, as well as generating any sort of kind of auto magical description associated with that conversation itself, so that we can go ahead and view and catch up where that conversation had left off. Is there anything else that I may have missed or that I could highlight in the VS Code Copilot here?
No, I think it's pretty spot on, and thematically here it was all about like getting the capabilities of the Copilot and making them available and grounded wherever you are, right? Because our goal is to keep the developer in flow. So we don't necessarily want you switching to the browser or switching, maybe to the desktop app or wherever you are, just to ask a quick question or to, generate a repair or something like that. And the other thing is like, a lot of the Copilots today, right, they are grounded in a single tab or in a bunch of cloud data that you may or may not have access to. The unique differentiator about the Pieces Copilot is that it is understanding both online and offline, what's going on in the research and development flow where you're working in the browser. How you're building on that to write code in the IDE and maybe collaborate with people in like Teams or GChat or Slack. And so I think like being horizontal really gives you some experiences that you're maybe not going to get out of the Copilots as they stand today. And certainly it's going to take something like a lighter on-device model like Llama 2 and make it perform way better than you would expect, even in an offline kind of air-gapped environment. So really, really pumped about that. Thank you, Mark. And I know we've got a lot more coming up with JetBrains and some of the other integrations. But Now we're going to kick it off. Last pillar, the browser. Rutvik, I know you've been patiently waiting. You're going to talk a little bit about the Copilot, but also the tech. You're like one of our few Flutter experts. You got yourself, Mac, and some of the others, and the rest of us were lowly Dart developers, but you guys make it look beautiful. So let's go for it.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. So like a browser is such an integral part of day-to-day workflow for developers, because we have to agree that most of the time we spend across browsers looking for things, searching for that one particular snippet, that is somewhere hidden within a long conversation, either on a site or on a a GitHub issue description. So having to this capability to look into the browser's sites page and discover snippets immediately without much scrolling is such an impactful way to improve your productivity. So in the way with the recent releases we had for pieces web extension was kind of catching up on those and improving those abilities for you to move quickly through browser and switch workflows. And one of the recent workflows, the things that we tried to add to the extension was having you to ask about any particular snippet that you found on a web page directly to the Pieces Copilot. So you don't have to go to any other particular ChatGPT sites or anything. Just so here's your code block, so you can ask Pieces Copilot about it, and now it tries to understand what it's given. So with the it takes that snippet as a context, and it tries to provide with the most helpful answer it can find. It can generate for it based on your workflow between your different IDEs, desktop app, and the extension itself. So as you can see, ask about this simple hello world program in Dart. So it gave me a really quick introduction to what this program is about, and also kind of helped me to suggested some follow-up questions that I could ask about, can you explain how the program prints hello world to the console. So these are some of the things that we are trying to capture on, where you can quickly move between a site to getting answer about a snippet. Now this this isn't just limited to a particular code blocks, but you can also select any of the code within this code blocks and just use one of the quick actions that we have, like a save selection to pieces, or ask Pieces Copilot about most importantly in this context, and it will do the same, take that snippet in as the context and try to help you with the most helpful answer that it can generate. Now that's just one thing that we are trying to build up in the browser, how we can better utilize what's context on the site and help you provide responses, or just surface things that you wouldn't notice otherwise. Just imagine you're on a long GitHub conversation, an issue conversation, and there are some snippets hidden within it. So Pieces extension will surface those hidden code blocks itself in the extension page, and you can quickly look up through those. Now this context is also carried out to a desktop app. Let's say you found one snippet, now you're gonna save it. So this snippet is also saved to the desktop app immediately, so you can continue between the browser and Pieces desktop app as wanted, without losing any more time.
It's pretty powerful. Yeah. I mean, and Rutvik, by the way, it looks great. You can tell that that's that really good looking Flutter app, all nice types of animations. And I know you have such a great attention to detail. Love the profile picture there, by the way. Looking good in the chat. What I would say is pretty interesting is, the browser is that location where maybe you're working inside of an organization and you're looking at internal docs that just simply can't go out, right? Can't go out to the web, can't go out to these large language models. I would say Pieces is definitively one of the only companies in the world that will let you have this entire experience running completely offline with a local Llama 2. So, I think it's a pretty unique thing, both for internal private docs or docs that, you can send out to these large language models to be able to quickly select, ask a question that's maybe not captured in the doc or whatnot. But I will say also too, behind the scenes, this site is getting packed into that context window, right? And Pieces is starting to understand over time that, hey, you're getting started with Dart, right? Maybe here's some stuff that's important, or maybe you should talk to Mark, Mac, or someone who can help you onboard to the project. And I think like understanding the context gives you better suggestions, gives you better Copilot responses, and really just starts to understand you and how you work. So this is just the beginning. I know you got big plans, Rupvik, but yeah, I'm pretty pumped. I'll say that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm like, this is just the start of like how we can like utilize Pieces Copilot in the browser. Right now, what we are doing is with like this back and forth conversation with snippets. But going forward, like we want to surface more information from the sites directly to you, like actively, like whether you're on a web page. So like it's gonna know like, so okay, it's so we have identified certain Dart code blocks. So what are some relevant code blocks that you have like come across in the past that are similar to this and can help you with this? So we will be trying to resurface those code blocks hidden in the history at that time as well. So you can kind of like connect the dots between things that you might be missing on. Yeah. And yeah.
And also too, just to add, I love the web extension myself. I use it all the time. Specifically when I'm either researching or doing PRs or just, reading some research papers and whatever. But I can start there in the IDE or the not the IDE in the web browser, and then I can actually connect that with my IDE. So basically, once I save any snippets or I can have any sort of conversation associated with it, I can pop over to my development flow, and then that conversation is already available in real time right then and there. So not only any sort of snippets I may have saved, but also all the conversations, which can help me stay in flow even longer.
Yeah,
That's right.
definitely, Mark. I'm like kind of like moving that context through a different work environment is such a powerful thing that can like boost your productivity. Like once, like let's say you're in the browser looking at a code block, and like immediately you can save it directly through the browser, and like the next day if you had to like use that same you need that same snippet within your IDE workflow, like you immediately get that context in the IDE as well. Like you got your saved snippets from the browser desktop as well, and just you can hit the road easily.
Love that. And I will say this is just the beginning. Rupvik, I know you probably want to touch on a couple of the things you've been doing for the other browsers, but I can say that what we're doing across all these workflow pillars, and I'll be a broken record on it, but it will kind of amount to an experience where you install Pieces, you let it kind of like just capture what's important for you, both proactively, but also saving things yourself. And then anytime you go to engage Pieces, right, you go for a search result, you go for a Copilot chat, maybe even you go for, the upcoming feed view. It's just helpful. It's aware and it's helpful. And I think like as a developer, you're moving faster and faster and faster. So you need that extra set of hands, that extra set of eyes, to just, basically auto-complete your thoughts, right? Auto-complete your workflow. So we'll see what happens. Pretty pumped about it. Yeah, and then maybe we can talk about, some of the upcoming browser integrations, some of the Flutter stuff, and then we can cap it from there with some questions.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm like, so up until now, we had a very solid support for extension within Chrome browser. But now upcoming releases will also provide that same experience across like Firefox, Opera, and other Brave browsers. So like no matter which browser you're using, Pieces extension will be able to like help you the most it can. Like, so currently, like I'll just give you a little demo of how things look on like Firefox. So this will be like released in the upcoming release, which will be soon. So like similar to like Chrome, like within the Firefox as well, like Pieces extension is able to like identify code blocks, surface code blocks on websites, and that is such impactful because like having one single an extension that maintains context across different browsers is such a powerful thing. Yeah, and I'm really excited to like get this upcoming release, which will like unlock those capabilities. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And all that is written in isomorphic Dart and isomorphic Flutter. Rupvik, I mean, is this? I know you're a big Flutter guy. You're talking at DevFest, upcoming, on some shaders and stuff. But what do you think about, building, Flutter in the browser and in web apps and things? What do you think about the versatility where you're going from the desktop app and you're taking notes and you and Matt can have some good, crossover? What's been your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, like Flutter on web has been like a really great experience. Like compared to like traditional web dev experience, like what Flutter provides is like you can like really get to like speed like immediately within a day or two with your web extension. Like for us, we particularly choose Flutter and Dart because it allows us to like kind of like capture those Flutter web capabilities that allowed us to like move fast, like ship Dart code that just works across different browsers, and like it's very easy to manage. Like we can also like share code between our desktop app and extension, which makes things like really go faster. We don't have to like rewrite the code in another different language. Like for us particularly, we had like some parts of our extension, like mostly like styling parts, some brand widgets, brand styling themes that are kind of shared between our desktop app and extensions. So we can maintain that similar experience across our different products, but like not spend much time on duplicating that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Consistency is key.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. The more UI we introduce, whether it be in an IDE integration, a web extension, and so on, we put such an emphasis on creating consistent experiences, right? And you'll see that in the VS Code extension, JetBrains extension, they're nearly identical. Like Mark alluded to, like they leverage a lot of the same code and the same code dependencies behind the scenes. Same thing with the web extension here. What Rafik is showing, the whole thing is written in Flutter and Dart. And so, we can create shared dependencies to make that effort to bring the consistency really kind of mindless and really effortless for us. So very excited to expand on that moving forward. Makes the Copilot even more helpful too, so we can ask questions about it and how we continue to maintain consistency.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
it's some wild stuff going on. All right, so real quick, if we don't have anything to cap off on some of that, want to see if there's any questions from the audience. Want to see if any questions from the team. I know we got some of our team members behind the scenes that might help us interject here. But if there's no questions, I can also spend the rest of the time talking about December, kind of where things are going, some of the cloud stuff that's coming up, and as we prep for 2024, just teams and enterprise, getting ready for some really amazing collaborative capabilities.
I thought we had a couple questions. Oh, there we go.
Sure. Mark, do you wanna try and field this one?
Yeah, let me start on like kind of like the Pieces OS side of things, and I'll kind of pass that off to Mac.
Yep.
But yeah, the trend of being able to write in Dart specifically. I don't do a ton of the UI stuff. Enables us to be able to write about 95% of the code that we need in Dart, and then basically package up any sort of specific, operating system specific code in any sort of binaries that then we can interact with Dart FFI, so that overnight and honestly, ship it once in Mac OS or ship it once on Windows, and then it works on Linux, Windows, and Mac OS, which enables us to be able to move so quickly, instead of in the JavaScript world where we would have to use Electron or some other
Ionic, React Native, whatever else it might be.
So it's so nice, and it enables us to be able to ship these experiences across all different operating systems so quickly. As well as the ability to be able to leverage some of our backend technologies, which I touched up on a little bit with the open source TypeScript SDK, but is also available in Dart and will be in the future, that some of our other really awesome integrations and applications use, such as the desktop application.
I think that it is, for this, we wanted to build a native app first and foremost because we believe AI should be a part of the operating system, right? We believe it should unify Mac OS, Linux, and Windows in a way that is intelligent, proactive, and helpful. And we wanted to start with developer productivity, where we could be a tool between tools, understanding what's going on in each of these pillars, but also to respect the privacy and the security and the performance requirements that our consumers and our users expect, right? And so Dart was really amazing, kind of like what Mark had mentioned about the isomorphism and the idea that you can say, hey, I can build a Mac app off of a Dart code base, but I can also take that thing and compile it for a Linux server that's wrapped in a Docker container and deployed, to the cloud. Similarly, the advancements in Dart right around the transpilation towards JavaScript, that's exactly what you see in the web world with Rutvik stuff. Fun fact, Dart transpiled to JavaScript actually runs 50% faster than handwritten JavaScript. So you get that benefit of strong typing and type safety, but also the performance of like a really nice compiler, aka closure compiler behind the scenes. And then the last one is this. Dart is just continuing to blow people's minds. They're doing a lot of stuff with WebAssembly. There's doing a lot of stuff with isomorphism on the edge, on the edge clouds, on the edge clients. And like, I think it's going to be pretty amazing for us. And by being native, we can go deep into the operating system with the FFI, but we can also go into the cloud realm, and we can also go into the web world, right, with client-side web experiences. So the versatility was really there for us. And we're trying to push the ball pretty far forward on what you can do with Dart. I can tell you that.
The only thing I would add is, as a result of Dart, we have Flutter, right? And obviously we gain so many benefits by using Flutter for our front ends and being able to build those consistent experiences across platform with one code base. And like the way that impacts the technical debt of the company and our ability to move quickly, we don't necessarily need to consider, okay, what is this going to look like on Windows versus Mac OS? How am I going to develop this experience for Windows or Mac OS? Out of the box, I mean, we have one code base, works beautifully for Flutter, with Flutter on Mac OS, Windows, and Linux, and we can continue moving fast.
And what I'd say there too is like being able to reach out to really anyone on the team. A good majority of our team is just Dart engineers, right? And so like obviously, the Flutter is quite nice to pick up, especially coming from a Swift background or a web background or things like that. That's not a problem. But when it comes to like code reviews or like algorithmic implementations or even just knowing how to look at the APIs or larger monorepos, like if Dart, you can come into our company and just be up and running. And then also too, you can move from project to project really fluidly, right? So I think it's pretty interesting for us.
Absolutely. And I completely agree with Savo. And also to add on to that point, coming from the web world, transitioning from a JavaScript and a TypeScript backend, as well as like a little bit of Java back in the day, moving into Dart has been it's you can see so many parallels between a promise and a future and a web worker and an isolate, and the list goes on and on. However, with just type safety right out of the box, and Dart has really done a wonderful job there.
Yeah, definitely, Mark. I'm like specifically with Flutter Web, like Dart has been improving quite greatly. Like we already have like Dart interop that allows us to like kind of communicate with the JavaScript code if we need to, as well as kind of like call Dart functions from JavaScript code, which is really amazing because most of the times like you might not be able to for us, like our Flutter extension, like our most of the logic of how things work are written in Dart code, and like for extension, sometimes we need to do the same things but from the browser side, from the JavaScript side. So in such cases, like Dart has this great way to the Dart interop allows us to kind of write Dart functions and declare them as a static interop function that can be called from the JavaScript side. So that can save us a lot of time as a developers, not to worry about writing the same thing twice in whether it's in Dart code and in JS code, but just use that Dart function and add it to static interop and just call it a day. Yeah.
It's wild. That's like FFI with JavaScript, if you will. So it's pretty neat. Nice. Yeah, I mean, this question, Mac, you could probably take this one if you like.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of hit it, right? I mean, a lot of the Pieces Copilot functionality is centralized to the platform in Pieces OS. So all of our plugins and tools are leveraging that same platform to develop the features and so on. And then of course, ensuring the consistent experience. It's a lot of attention to detail. It's a lot of manual work, just making sure that this button is here on VS Code and it's also here in the IntelliJ extension, but the team is working hard to make that process a lot simpler for themselves by abstracting code and being able to write it once and deploy it in multiple places. And you see that in the TypeScript plugins being VS Code and JetBrains, the Copilot is written in TypeScript. And then you see it with the Flutter applications and building the Flutter desktop application as well as the web extension. And so we use the same tools and technologies. We pay a lot of the attention to detail. And we really we look at them both side by side. I mean, we really do. There's not a whole lot of magic there other than reducing code and paying that attention to detail and spending the time to make sure that it's consistent.
I would add as well, consistency is super important at the SDK level and at the data layer. And, fun fact about our company is a majority of our client-side SDKs are generated off of protobuf specs or HTTP open API specs, right? And so that means when Mark, basically releases an endpoint with a certain capability, we have it in Kotlin, we have it in TypeScript, we have it in Dart, we have it in Rust and Go and some of the others very quickly, right, out of the gate. And so, when you're looking at it side by side, that question of do I have access from an SDK perspective is not a problem for us, right? And I think people will start to see even a further convergence of our platform and its performance and its isomorphism, which will both let us kind of reduce technical debt, but also integrate in more environments ridiculously fast next year. We've got some crazy architectures. Yeah,
exactly.
Notion. I could probably feel this one. We have plans to support a lot of things, and kind of building on some of the architecture stuff. There's going to be a two-pronged approach. Number one, how can we build a system that is uniquely isomorphic and can offload a lot of the work just to the Pieces OS core. So you can basically go to, say, localhost 1001 and boom, it's the Chrome extension, right? Or something like that. Then the second thing is, we are building on what we do internally to consolidate and to standardize and just to improve with open source. We know that we can't build everything for everyone. And so a large effort in our goals this year is, hey, let's open up these SDKs, right? Let's do the TypeScript one. Let's do the Rust one. Let's put it on npm pub.dev and creates.io so that, you could take a look at one of our open source integrations and say, hey, I could build an MVP or I could build a Copilot for Notion in a weekend, like a hackathon, right? And I think that would be a big thing for us too, is there are power users in these communities, and a lot of these communities have deeply technical users and they build plugins, right? They're just like, I just want this, so I'm going to do it. And I think that'll be a big win on our side as well. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, Mac, that's all you.
I could do it. You guys want me to do a demo of it?
Rip it. Do a demo. We got some smart transforms.
Yeah, we got some smart transforms. So there's a couple ways you can do this. Let me just share my screen here. Present. Why does it say stop screen? Share screen. Okay. Share screen. Entire screen. Cool. I'll go quick. There's a whole bunch of ways we can do this. Let me know when you can see.
Yep. Great.
So of course you can do this in the Copilot. You can have a conversation around a code snippet. You can ask the Copilot to transform it for you. I'm going to go ahead over here to the gallery. Let's just take a look at some of my snippets here and see what might make sense to do a transform. Post-processing, this could be interesting. It's kind of a larger snippet. This is a nice snippet here that we use to kind of post-process files, or a chat message in the Copilot to make sure that we wrap it with all those nice suggested actions.
That one's pretty annotated. That one's
yeah. What do you
go to one that's
well, let's see here. This is shell script.
Oh yeah.
Path filter. I don't know. You can see I do a decent job of commenting my snippets.
Yeah, I don't. I'm just like, if you see the shape, you should know.
Yeah, I feel like I should be using like pieces desktop all the time to like just document code. Like,
Yeah.
This one's pretty solid. It's a pretty simple snippet here just to get a page title off of a URL. And it's written in Dart. You can see a very easy use case of why I might want this in Python, might want it in JavaScript, you name it. But I'm going to go ahead and I've got this toolbar over here. And on the top, I've got this little edit icon where I can start to edit this snippet. And of course, I can go and type. I can do whatever I may need to do, add a comment. But the actions over here on the right-hand side now changed. It knows I'm editing this snippet. And so it's going to give me some options now that I can do in a more intelligent way. I can modify the snippet for boilerplate usage. I can modify the snippet for improved performance. I can modify it for improved readability. And of course, I can translate it into a different language. So first, what I'll do is I'll just add some readability and understanding to it. So processing a more readable snippet. Let's see kind of how it does here. Fantastic. So we've got a whole new version of this snippet. You can see it went through and it gave me a comment on every single line. So super nice, super helpful. I can come in, easily read the comments, get an understanding of what's going on. From there, I can save it. I can discard the changes, really whatever you'd like to do. And then next, what I'll do is I'll transform this. And what I want to do is I want this snippet to actually go into, what do you guys think? JavaScript, TypeScript, Python, something different?
What do we got? I'd probably just do TypeScript. That's what we do in our company pretty often. You get an algorithm and you're like, hey, I gotta implement this in a website or something, or VS Code plugin.
Exactly. And so I can change that to TypeScript, and optionally I can add some descriptors. Let's say I wanted it to maybe remove the comments or move the comments to the end of the line, whatever it may be. You can add some optional descriptors in that transformation process. Then I'll go ahead and click generate. And it says rewriting get page title function as TypeScript. So we'll give this a second here. Let's see how it does. Nice. Now you'll notice this is no longer a Dart snippet. Obviously, for those familiar with TypeScript and Dart, there's not too many crazy differences between the two languages, but you'll notice async function declared here before the function name, and then of course the strong typing declared after the function parameters. And now I've got this perfectly commented code in TypeScript. So let's say I want to go ahead and save that. I click the save button here at the top. I can also hit Command S on macOS or Control S on Windows. And so now you'll see I have updated that snippet. You'll notice the language down here, what was previously Dart is now TypeScript. And I've got a new get page title function, perfectly commented and now written in TypeScript.
That's right. Awesome. I think it's really awesome. And I'll tell you, there are things that you can do with ChatGPT 4 and some of the other stuff. But the problem is how to ask the question, how to prompt the large language model to do exactly what you want it to do. And you're like, cool. You've got smart transforms, so on and so forth. I could do that with, other tools and other things. But we've spent a lot of time, every quick action in the product, everything that's like annotate code, make it more readable, translate it, that is prompt engineered, right? To make sure that it's standardized. It's going to give you the really, really A+ kind of result. And it's performant, right? Sometimes you might hit a cold start here and there, but besides the fact you can guarantee that, hey, look, maybe I just want to duplicate this snippet real quick, convert it to TypeScript, fire it off to Caleb, right? And that's a super quick flow. Now you didn't have to think about like, okay, I paste into ChatGPT and say, here's my snippet, type out what you want it to do, all that stuff. Our goal is to really take A+ prompts and reduce them down to a button click, right? And that's why we put the transforms in there. That's why you see some of those quick actions throughout the product. It's just a nice experience, one click, done.
Exactly.
Cool. I know we're at time here. I don't know if we have any other last questions, any other last thoughts, but we saw a lot here, and you're probably going to see some snippets of this chopped up and deployed. But any other questions across this group here, Mac, Mark, or Rafik?
I had a great time. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the demo. Showed some pretty awesome stuff. But, hey, there's no better way to experience it other than to try it out yourself. Go download the product, install the plugins, click around, try it out. Using the Chrome extension with a PR is amazing. It will transform that entire workflow for you. So
definitely, soon coming to other browsers as well, like Firefox, Opera, Brave. So be tuned.
Yeah.
And also too, let us know what you think. If you like it, if you don't like it, and let us help you out.
Exactly.
Awesome. I'll say this, I'll leave everyone with a couple keywords that will represent December and early January. You'll see us again, probably through the holidays, but keyword number one is going to be basically, we'll call it ghost assets, pseudo assets, automatic saving, right? Around that kind of general terminology. Keyword number two is just going to be what you need when you need it, right? No comments, no discussions, no searching, none of that. Just, think about what runs TikTok, the algorithm. We're working on the algorithms big time. And then, keyword number three is, cloud. When I say cloud, device to device, peer to peer, team to team, I think that you're going to see some magical things going on. And we're pretty excited. That's all I'll leave you with, but stay tuned and stay in touch. Sweet. Thanks, Shivay.
Thanks, everyone.
Right. Bye, everyone.
See you, everyone.
Hey, there we go. Nice. Happy Friday.
Yep.